Hey everybody, welcome to day 24 of my podcast. For those of you who aren't familiar, basically I discuss my mental health on a daily basis, as well as provide a platform for folks for whom I can't speak to share their stories. This is my second interview, and I'm very lucky enough to have my buddy Cal, who I met in Argentina. He's from Dallas, but he hit me up the other day, basically said that he wanted to share his sentiments on all the white supremacist craziness going on right now in America. And without further ado, I'm giving it over to Cal.
Cool. Hello, everybody. My name is Cal, originally from Ethiopia. Grew up out here in Dallas. Met my buddy Clark out there in Argentina. We spent some time getting to know each other. I did shoot out there to Boston to visit his hometown, and he did return the favor by coming to Texas. So it's all love, and it's just one of the people in this world I would call my brothers. I wouldn't even call them like a friend, because it's just, you come across people that mean a lot more to you than just the associate or somebody that you're cordial with. And we shared thoughts, ideas, perspectives, and it's just a one stand-up guy that I can vouch for and say, if anything he says, I can put my stamp on it without giving it a second thought. So thank you for the introduction, Clark.
Appreciate that, my man. So I guess the main thing that we're going to talk about today is just everything that's going on in America right now, and you just bringing the perspective as being a young Black man in America, with everything from the police brutality towards Black people, towards just socioeconomic segregation.
Right.
But my thing for you is that makes you even more of like a complex identity, is that you were born in Ethiopia. So you have you bring a certain perspective that other Black folks in America might not have. So can you kind of speak on that as well?
Right. Being from Ethiopia, I don't know how many people on your podcast know, but it's just one of those, literally the only country that wasn't colonized in Africa. So the whole oppression by white supremacy, or anybody that's outside your, race, taking advantage or exploiting you, that's something that we didn't have to go through. And coming to America, where majority of African Americans did go through it, or their ancestors did have to go through the whole segregation, slavery, and what have you. It kind of puts things into perspective, because you look at things a little differently. You just look at it like, as I can't speak for everybody, but as far as myself, I look at things logically. I'm not left, I'm not right. I just look at it as an independent thinker, and when I see things, I just, I call them out. So if it's not logical for somebody that's from a different background to benefit off the same system that other people are benefiting from, then I just basically call out the chains in their armor and basically address it. And I've done that through action. It's not just all talk. I've left jobs because of it. I've sent emails out to CEOs, CFOs. I've had altercations with policemen. And then if it's just not moving through logic, it's just something that I can't condone, and I can't just let it ride out and not have my 2 cents put in it. So being from Ethiopia, I think my lens is a little bit more crisp, because once you're stuck in the system for a long time, generations, you kind of see things as they are, and having the outside perspective kind of gives you a different look at it. And I've heard many times friends, all colors, all different backgrounds, say that, I didn't look at it until you put it in that perspective. And that's what I like doing, because it's almost like everybody that's a human has the same goals. They want to do good. They want to take care of their family. They want to grow. They want to leave something behind for the generations to come. But when the odds are not in your favor, you could just see the hypocrisy in it. So
Absolutely.
I've went out to basically call the faults in the system that we're living in.
Absolutely. And have you found that it's difficult to like have these conversations, especially with like white people or non-black people, just being in the South? I know that in general it's difficult to have those conversations, but there's kind of the stereotype that in the South, like racial tensions are that much higher and there's that much more like overt racism. Can you kind of speak on that?
Yeah, the people that I grew up with, so there's two sides to it. So basically, you have the people that you grew up with, a community and all of that. They want to do better. They just are ignorant to what's going on and seeing that it doesn't directly affect them.
Hmm.
They basically turn a blind eye to it, don't really give it the attention that it needs until one of my buddies, a dude named Kyle, reached out to me and basically said, how could I be a better person in life? Which is a funny ass like question, but
Yeah, it's a loaded question.
yeah, I told him if you move through logic, you'll be all right, and if you see something that doesn't sit well with you, or if you see that somebody's facing injustice, then it's up to you to just basically chime in or basically stand up for people that are caught in the middle of a system. It's not even like on a personal level. It's just the way the game is designed in America, where
Hmm.
you have people that are coming from slaves, as far as just like ancestors and all of that. And everybody just wants equality. They just want to make sure that, everything's on an even keel. And if it's not like that, then it's up to you to basically stand up for them, because you're basically evening out what your grandfather's faults were. And I had the privilege to go on a protest yesterday. I actually did that. Downtown Dallas with a group of
Okay.
people, and basically it was eye opening. You had people from different backgrounds, whether it be white people, Asians, Hispanics. You had everybody out there. You had black people, obviously. And while we're in unity, protesting for change, putting emphasis on voting, because it all goes back to action.
Absolutely.
If you don't like the current situation that we're in, the only way to get rid of it or eradicate it is basically by, exercising your right to vote. Um, and I saw it, and it was beautiful. Just seeing it. That's like the first protest I've ever done in my life, because I think with the whole George Floyd thing, this is the first time in America where you could clearly see somebody was subdued, was in handcuffs, was not a threat at all. And for
Hmm.
somebody to just kneel on him for 9 minutes and just basically take the life out of him, that sparks rage, that sparks
Absolutely.
anger, and and it just kind of opens up that conversation for people to open up and basically um, have a real conversation with other people from different backgrounds. And I've seen on my timeline a lot of conservatives kind of change the way they look at things. You have a lot of people changing their tone or their tune of how they look at it. That whole all lives matter bullshit just went out the window.
Yeah.
Like,
They're finally they're finally starting to get smart.
yeah, exactly. Because it's not one of those, it's not like people are pushing that whole Black Lives Matter over, whatever, but it's just really just putting focus on the lives that are just going, you know, day to day, just a random traffic stop ending in somebody's death. You're
Yeah.
going to have to step up and basically say, hey, this is bullshit. And, we got to come together as a people, because at the end of the day, these are the same people that you work with. These are the same athletes, actors, business people, everybody that you support. They're all coming from different backgrounds. And if the system is not set up for everybody to have a fair chance, then that's when the people have to rise up and basically fight it.
Mhm.
And the funny thing is, when we were all in unity, all different backgrounds, there was a guy on the other side of the fence, a junkie, obviously, screaming out, white power, white power. And that was
Jesus.
just, it was laughable because you could see how some people are just stuck in ignorance. Like they don't
Yeah.
really reach their zenith. They're not. They don't see the real issue. And I think with this whole George Floyd thing, it kind of hit home for a lot of people because now they see the realities of their friends, their counterparts, or
Hmm.
people that they're in the community with that go through the BS. And I think it was time for everybody to just kind of chime in. And I did see that with business people, Mark Cuban, owner of the Dallas Mavericks. You had other people from, dude from the commissioner from the NFL saying that we were wrong. Colin Kaepernick was right. You have you got people
X amount of
fighting.
years later,
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like it's a
finally
little
admits
too
that
late.
he was wrong and that Kaepernick
Yeah,
was right.
and that's what it is. Like at this point, it's just like it's not a black and white thing. It's just more so like a systematic thing. Like it's more so like who do you uh when it comes to just the whole saying of or the slogan of America, we're all created equal in America and all this other stuff. Like if you can't really value or own up to you know the ideal that we're basically promoting, then we have to do something about it because it's like it's false advertisement. It's nothing more than false advertisement.
Exactly.
Because again, coming from a country that hasn't been oppressed, literally went to elementary where it was predominantly white people, and you have teachers telling you this is where all black people come from. It's just ignorance. And
Yeah.
I've had to call out teachers. I have to call out professors. And it's not like I'm walking around, prancing, saying, my country comes from. It's not
Yeah.
like that. It's more so like the way the perspective that we're pushing, like before kids even go to junior high or go to high school or college or what have you. You're already having a sense of oppression, or like you're
Yeah.
feeling like you're being oppressed. And
They're not teaching about
every
like African empires or anything like that, like stuff that African people achieved. It's all just like there was slavery and then Africa is like a poor continent now. That's like really all we get taught.
exactly.
So
Exactly, and that's where we were at as a nation, and then luckily now we're all waking up, and the North, as far as just coming out there to Boston, D.C., Philly, New York, and all of that, people are just a lot more hip to what's going on. But as far as down south, it's more so like this is what my forefathers stood for, and all. They have to
yeah,
basically address or acknowledge their history and just know that the way that their forefathers were looking at the world was kind of messed up. They can't look at it in the way of white supremacy. They can't look at it like three-fifths of a man is what a black man is, and it's just all these like negative connotations that come with the history that a lot of people don't want to address,
yeah,
but again want to benefit off the backs of people that put in work. A lot of inventions, a lot of creations, a lot of the things that have been,
just cultural stuff too.
cultural. Yeah, like as far as you can't think of a team, or you can't think of a way that the culture has been affected by music, or uh, and it's not even to limit it and like box it in one situation. There's a lot of inventions that have been created by African Americans that did not get the recognition that they deserve. Um, and I think right now, as a whole, as a nation, a lot of people are just waking up. They're tired of it. They don't have to necessarily be, in the same city. But if the world is looking at us sideways, then it's only up to us for us to basically change how we look at the systematic racism that has been implemented in America. So um, shout out to London, shout out to like a whole bunch, like Seoul, South Korea, and just all these places are just like just fed up with just seeing the public executions of like black people.
Yeah, for
It,
sure.
it's already bad enough that the slavery existed, but for it to continue, whether it be segregation, whether it be Jim Crows, whether it be these police brutality incidents, it's just people are fed up, and enough is enough, and I think that's where a lot of people are at, because instead of just seeing another video of somebody being killed, they rather just see, everybody coming together and advance as a whole, instead of just reminiscing on the past.
Absolutely. Yeah, you can't whitewash the past when so much bad stuff has happened because it won't let you move forward. I do
That's
have a
true.
question, actually. So obviously there's people that, like, we'll just say white people, for example, that there's like
Mm-hmm.
the ones that say that like they got your back, right? Like they're part of the cause and everything. And then there's the
Right.
people like the junkie who are screaming white power and all that stuff. So those are two people on like opposite ends of the spectrum, right? But what do you say
Mm-hmm.
to the people that are like, we support Black Lives Matter, this, that, and the other thing, but like we don't support the looting? Like where it becomes like
Right.
because that's like what I see a lot of, like people are like, yeah, I support them, but I don't support looting. Like what do you have to say to those people, like to get them to
Okay.
understand?
As far as just like where you draw the line. Okay.
Or just like
Um,
what you think about it. Like for example, I just think that the looting is a symptom of like 400 years of oppression and racism. So like you have to
right.
look at the big picture. But that's just my
Facts.
opinion.
Facts.
So I was curious about what you think about all of it. And
Right. I do see a lot of people basically say that they're against looting, they're against rioting, um, and me personally, first of all, profession wise, I'm an accountant, so I just know Target has insurance, so I'm not going to
yeah,
entertain that. I'm not going to entertain that their pockets are going to be hurting anytime soon. As far as the rioting and the looting, it's just people express themselves in a different way.
yeah,
A lot of people. Me personally, I like to post on Facebook and then get active when I can. I do a little protest here and there, or whatever, or a vote. I like to get active. Other people, they might look at it like, hey, if this is the world that we're living in, then I'd rather just, destroy it and then rebuild. Because at
sure.
least when you rebuild it, you could basically include yourself in it, or you can include change within the rebuild. A lot of people that were looting or were rioting, I just see mad videos, but those videos included all types of races. I didn't see
Yeah,
just
that's what
black
I was
people.
gonna say
I didn't
too.
see just Mexicans. Right. So
Yeah,
I
there's a
saw a
ton of
lot of
white people looting.
shout out to Karen. You feel me? Like she was over there getting the pressure cooker when my man Jerome
she
was.
needed to get that hair dye and all that good stuff.
Yeah, that shopping list, it was definitely there. Like, so if looting, basically is a symptom of oppression, then so be it. It all they all lead to the same resolution, which is change.
Yeah.
Um,
And it's not like
People
there
look
hasn't
at
been peaceful protesting and all that stuff like before the looting. Like there was a bunch of
right,
peaceful stuff that wasn't accepted. Like usually like the next step is to use violence or to like,
exactly.
raise hell. That's just how
No,
I've like
that's
viewed
what
it.
it is.
But
Well, with the peaceful protests, they're cool and all. Don't get me wrong. I'm a huge fan of Martin Luther King and all that, but I'm a huge fan of Malcolm X too. If you can't get your point across in a peaceful manner, then you're going to have to basically arm up and do what you got to do. Like at this point, where my thought process is, it's just like it's fine and dandy to have peaceful protests. It's fine and dandy to all come together and shit like that. But at the same time, you got to look at it like, if they're not hearing you, then you got to raise the volume. You got to,
yeah.
and the only way you're going to do it is by touching people's pockets. You're going to have to touch these corporations' pockets. You're going to have to basically let them know that their dollar won't be spent at that store no more. There's a huge culture, like cancel culture. Like a lot of people are like Drew Brees, for instance. Like he had said
Yeah, I saw
something
that.
about his grandfather's being in the World War
Yeah,
II, which is cool.
it's like calling a flag worth more. Like they're saying, like a flag is worth more than like a black life. They're like you can't disrespect the flag. It was like, well, you're literally killing black people. Like I think that
Right.
a living person like should, in theory, in a society that is quote unquote the leaders of the free world, like that shouldn't be a
Hmm.
question that we value a black person's life over a flag. But every day I hop on
Right.
social media, like I see examples of the opposite, and it's very like disconcerting.
Yeah. No, that's a fact. That's a fact. That's a fact. Like a lot of people might say, first of all, the people saying their grandfathers fought in the war, their father fought in the war, and all that, they're not in the military.
Oh yeah, they're
they're
just
not.
like yeah,
They're
they're
not.
trying to they're trying to hold on to
First
like
of
their
all,
grandfather's like honor or something. It's like
right.
nobody cares. Like
Right. Don't bring your personal experience, your personal story in a big issue or a big matter and make it seem like it's all about you. Because first of all, you didn't serve. So if you didn't
yeah,
serve and you have, people that did serve that are getting on one knee, that are protested, that are, basically aligning with the Lives Matter movement, then you have no say so. If you didn't go out there to Iraq, if you didn't go there to Afghanistan, if you didn't go to Vietnam, if you didn't really go out there and put in the work, you can't speak on other people's mindset. You can't speak on other people's perspective because you didn't put in the work.
yeah,
You're just a person that wants to chalk it up to like my grandfather. Like for instance, Drew Brees situation. He's like, my grandfather fought for this country. Oh, that's cool and all. That was back then. But right
yeah.
now,
That's like when everybody's
people,
grandfather fought for the country too. It was World War II. Like you basically had to
right,
fight. So it's like, okay, my grandfather, like his grandfather, their grandfather, like, but like that doesn't mean a
right.
flag is worth more than a life. Like I
No, not
just
at
fail to
all.
see that argument.
And then you got to take into consideration that when it comes to war, when it comes to fighting, when it comes to like killing the opposition and all of that, the whole time there's been Black lives along with it. There's been people in the Revolutionary War all the way up into like the Iraq or Afghanistan war. There's
Yeah,
been Black people sacrificing their lives. There's been Black people in World War II, World War One. There's been
yeah,
countless of Black lives that basically sacrificed their lives so that this ideal can move forward. As far as
yeah,
America being the land of the free, home of the brave, there's been that movement via Black people. So it's almost like a spit in those people's faces when you say, "Hey, you fought for this country, but in return, we're still going to treat you like shit."
hmm
Like
yeah.
it doesn't flow. It
That's true,
doesn't
man.
fly.
Yeah, in
So
Vietnam, I think like the black people died in like super high numbers because they just kept getting like thrown into like the like brigades or whatever that were going into like the
exactly,
front lines. Like they were dying like super high like percentages and stuff. So just like, and that's during
exactly.
like the 70s, like right after the civil rights movement. I can't imagine that any of them want to be there like in a hot ass jungle like
Right.
fighting for a country that like probably values the Vietnamese people's lives more than theirs. Yeah.
Exactly. And not to just like a little segue for that whole Vietnam war, I go back to one of my, I don't want to say idols, but somebody I look up to would be Muhammad Ali, Muhammad Ali did preach the fact that, a Chi Kong, well, I forgot what they call him, a Chi Kong or something like that, whoever the people that they're fighting,
Yeah,
he's
Viet
like,
Cong.
yeah, Viet Cong, yeah, that's what it was. He's like, yeah, those people never called me the N word. They never had no problems with me. Like he said, he basically looked at the media and said, America's my oppressor. America's put me down. America's basically trying to, get over on me, and you still want me to go out there and fight your war, but you're not even willing to put, an inch of effort in the war that's going on right now with the Black lives that are basically dying day to day. So with that, I just look at it like, okay, yeah, you have a point that they fought for that ideal, but if they're fighting for an ideal where everybody's equal and the people that live in this country that are American citizens are basically getting gunned down for traffic stops, and they're getting gunned down for little minute things that could have been resolved with a tape. I don't want to say taser because I don't know what the situation is, but like it could have ended pretty well. It could have been like a one night in whatever county jail or whatever.
Yeah,
Like
it
you
didn't have
have
to go
people,
that far.
yeah, to that extreme where you're just looking at it like, wait, so how are they able to get away with all this murder? Like, um, and then that's where we're at as a country. Like, if everybody, it's not fair for the African American to basically look at the world, or at least America, sideways when when they're like, hey, we gotta defend our country, and everybody that's black is signing up for wars and all of that, and then you come back and you're facing another war.
Yeah,
That's not cool. And the way that this country was set up, the way this whole I don't want to say game, but the way this whole uh, country was designed was not in the benefit of not even black people. It's just any immigrant migration from whatever country. It could have been the Irish, it could have been the Italians, it could have been whoever. But it's just like everybody goes through their little phase where they're getting uh, hazed, or they getting inducted into the whole civilization of
yeah.
America.
But
It's
like
almost
black,
like
yeah, but black people have been here for like 400 years. Like it's time that they stopped getting like hazed, discriminated against, whatever like you want to call it. Like all those other people that you mentioned, like yeah, they went through it, but like not for 400 years. Like
exactly.
like there's
And
yeah.
what were you outside?
I was just gonna say like yeah, there's been like a black president and everything, but like that doesn't like when people say like oh yeah, somebody who's black like became president, therefore there's like no racism or something. It's like that was just literally one of millions and millions and
Million.
millions of black people. It's like
Right.
the one white dude that plays in the NBA or something. Like it's just like yeah, it
Right.
exists, but like it's just not like nearly as common, and like it shouldn't be like
Nah.
viewed as like the representation of everybody.
No, not at all. And then basically, like, you're looking at a unicorn. You're not looking at the whole, breed. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, the, uh, as far as just one person benefiting, doesn't, say anything about the other, millions of people that are being oppressed. And with that, I don't know, um, as far as just that and the history and that in depth, but a lot of people that did come here. They had incentives, they had packages, they had acres of land, they had money, they had ways to basically have a little starter pack when they
yeah, they
came to
started their
America.
life with something.
Right. So a shout out to the Irish people that came out there in the 1920s. Shout out to the Italians in the 30s. But I'm just saying, like, at the end of the day, like, if you're not taking it, I think it was a quote from was it The Departed, where he's just like, nobody's going to give you anything. You got to take it. It's almost like when black people do stand up and are willing, like the Black Panthers and what have you, or just standing up and trying to take back their communities, like Tulsa and whatever.
Hmm.
You have these country ass ignorant people that come out the woodworks and try to burn down, dynasties, and that's the history you have, So it's like anytime that black community wants to thrive or wants to grow, there's always like some glitch in the system that basically blocks them from doing it.
Yeah,
And
whether it be like
I think
government or just a bunch of country ass people.
yeah, and then that's who feeds into the government. Like you've had countless stories, or you heard countless stories about people that have been killed for no reason, like the Emmett Tills, and people that just basically got removed from their family, and years on later, you find out like the lady was lying the whole time. Like I
Yeah,
had to figure that out when I went to DC. I went to DC and I did like the whole African American Museum trip, and I found out a lot of people, a lot of the stories that you hear, like they basically shed light on like the oppression. They shed light on the ugly, but they never shed light on physicians and inventors and all these guys. Like
Yeah.
there was like a 4 level decked out African American museum where it taught you about the history as a whole. And that's what one of my main arguments is in this conversation is that the media only sheds light on the negative when it comes to Black people. So it's almost like, little kids that are watching the news, they look at it like, well, we're not, we're really not set up to like win in this game. So why even bother playing, you know?
Yeah, for
But
sure.
if they were, basically exposed or like introduced to African Americans outside of Obama. Like Obama's cool, but it is what it is. That's all I
Yeah.
gotta say. Like
It's,
if you really look at it, it is what it is. Like I'm not going to dive too deep in that realm, but it's just like if you were to expose them or introduce them to other African Americans that went against the grain and did a lot for their people and did come up in the system, you would have a different story. You would have different role models. You wouldn't have a lot of kids that are just like lost or straying away and or confused of what's going on because at
for
least they
sure.
have somebody to look up to.
Absolutely. Another question I wanted to ask you, this just popped into my head. So I know that I see a lot of folks like on social media and whatnot, they share like important info, whether it be like, a new like protest event that's going to pop off or like the best like Black run organizations to like donate to and everything. But I like
Hmm.
kind of worry that like a lot of people are like super like I don't know, like, for example, like with the black boxes that got posted, and then it was like
Hmm.
hashtag like Black Lives Matter, but then people realized like that was just flooding like the timeline. So like the only thing
Hmm.
that you saw on Black Lives Matter was just like black boxes instead of like videos of people like protesting and stuff, like the stuff that actually like matters. Do you
Right.
do you worry that like with social media and everything that like these events could get like kind of screwed over by like people that aren't Black who like want to like help be part of the movement but are like almost like viewing it as like their own movement instead of like what I'm saying? Like I view this, for
Right. Right.
example, I view this as like a movement that like I can only play like a supporting role in because I'm not Black, so there. But
Right.
I fully support like Black Lives Matter and like full equality. But I
Hmm.
recognize that I'm not Black, so I can't be like at the forefront of the movement. Sometimes I worry that like because you have social media and stuff like that, and people just keep posting and everything like that they think that they're at the front of it, even if they're like white or not Black. Like,
Right.
do you worry ever that with stuff like that, that Black people like kind of get pushed to the side of their own movement, or are you not as worried in this case?
Um, in this in this situation, it's really just like a catch-22 because you really do want the attention to be on Black Lives Matter,
Yeah.
but I'm looking at it like from an independent slash neutral standpoint, and a lot of and it's going to sound really messed up, but there are a lot of feminists and extreme left liberals that are making this movement a lot more about them than
Okay.
the
Yeah.
issue at hand. And it's not just people out there that basically take an issue, like a real issue. This is like real lives, being killed and taken away. They take that issue and make it about them. I saw this one challenge called "Go Ball" for like Black Lives Matter, and I'm like, what in the nut ass? Like, I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, what does that have to do with anything? Like,
Yeah.
like, and you literally have to just be, for me, as far as just people that aren't Black that do want to help, like you really have to use your good judgment because it's just like people can take this and run with it and make it out to whatever they want it to be. And sometimes people really do take those dollars from donations and help, single mothers or broken homes and kids' education, and they really do that. I've seen it, but there's other people that are basically ego stroking, and they do basically take advantage of a real situation, which is sad. And a lot of people are just, clueless to what's going on because they feel like they're doing the right thing by donating. But when you do
Yeah.
donate, like, how do you trace it? It goes back to Haiti, and not to get off topic, but it goes back to Haiti when they had their earthquakes and all of that. And basically, a lot of people were donating. They didn't understand that these fundraisers are like nonprofits were basically pocketing all the money that was being donated, and all
Yeah.
that help they thought that they were doing was going straight in the pockets of people that are using this whole crisis as a way to come up as a as a vulture or like as a wolf or some shit.
Sure.
So I just look at it like you got to really be mindful to what you're donating to. And at the same time, if it starts straying away from basically the original matter at hand, that's when you have to take a step back and, reevaluate and figure out how you can impact people in a better light. Like you yourself or any, your friends or whoever's in your circle, you could have a conversation with a black business owner. You can have a conversation with somebody that's going through it, and that would do a lot more than donating to some of these charities, because they look at it like, okay, as long as not all people are thinking like the ones that are oppressing us, then there's like this brotherhood that's created. And
Hmm.
to me personally, that's what has done it for me. Like having conversations with people that aren't black and just knowing that they don't think in an ignorant manner or they don't think in a way where it's detrimental to the black community, kind of gives you this peace and peace of mind, really, that a lot of people want to support the movement. It's just they're kind of stuck when it comes to how to go about it.
For
If
sure.
that answers the question.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, I was just
Cool.
curious
Cool.
because I definitely see a lot of people like posting, and I'm kind of cynical. So sometimes I'm like you said, are you just stroking your ego? Do you want to like look like you're part of something just to like have the feel good? Like people will post like pictures of like the donation that they made. It's like,
Mhm.
and my thing is like, unless like you're running a charity or something, and like you're showing that somebody else donated,
Right.
I don't know why you would want to like post like a picture of your donation. Like if you want to donate, just donate and like keep it on the low.
Right.
Like there's really no reason to
Keep
like
it
post a picture.
unknown.
Yeah, I gave like X amount of dollars to the NAACP or something. All right, that's great. Well, you don't need to tell everybody. Just go do it. Like that's like
Exactly.
I just see kind of stuff like that, and I was just curious if I just wonder if like that's like detrimental to the movement, but it's kind of weird because like it's like giving money, but like they might not even know who they're giving money to, like you said. And on top of that, it's like, are you giving money to make yourself look good, or are you giving money to like help Black people like move forward in this country?
No, that's a fact, and I honestly believe. I don't know if you're a visual learner. I don't know if your listeners are like visual learners or whatever. But I just look at it like if you were in a pool and basically you have to rise to a certain level for change to occur. When you do have pretentious people or opportunists out there taking advantage of movements, it's like you have a hole or you have a leak. So things that are being dumped into it are just basically, channeling or being funneled to a different angle or something outside of where it needs to be. So basically, the movement stays stagnant. So you're going to have X amount of, occurrences. You're going to have X amount of casualties like George Floyd before you actually see real change because people, don't get me wrong, not all, but there's some people out there that look at, the whole tragedy of George Floyd as an opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is insane, but like people are just trying to look like they're part of a movement that's bigger than them to like stroke their ego or maybe even get put
Facts,
themselves in like a better position. Like, but
facts,
yeah,
facts.
I was just curious as to like what your opinions are on that word, but yeah, besides that, man, I don't have anything like that I've written down. Besides that, I felt like we kind of just went through all of it like organically. Is there anything else that you want to say to the listeners, just as far as how you're feeling day to day with everything going on? Because like
Uh,
one thing that's like weird for me is that like this one event like set everything in motion, but like
Hmm.
I always wonder like why this one when there's been like so many other events like that just is it just like
Right.
the perfect like timing being that there's like a quarantine in effect and that there's people with like less and less jobs and like so and more people just have like access to seeing this stuff now. It just all kind of came together to like light the fuse.
Um, I want to say it's multiple factors. You know, the fact that people were in quarantine. I don't know what the numbers or stats are right now, but last time I checked, it was like 33 people. Oh, not 33 people, 33 million, 34 million unemployed. So it did give time for people to sit there and just digest what's going on. Before all of this, you know, a lot of people were, you know, out and about working and just really did. If it doesn't, and this goes for anybody, it's not even like a Black Lives Matter type situation, but if it doesn't affect you or impact you directly, it's hard for you to just care. Like for me to care about, you know, and I'm not ignorant, I'm not closed minded, but like same sex marriage. If some chick couldn't get married to like her lesbian lover out there in like Idaho or something like that, it's really hard for me to just like stop what I'm doing and focus on it, you know. But the fact that there's a lot of people that are unemployed, and you know, the whole quarantine situation gave time for people to really take this in. So that's one factor. The other factor is the fact that this was like a public execution. It wasn't
Yeah.
like one of those situations where like a policeman could basically justify his actions or wasn't swift. It wasn't like one of those, I shot him 6 times because he reached for something. You know what I mean? This is
Yeah, no, it's just
literally
straight up.
a murder. Like you've seen like somebody said, I can't breathe, and he was subdued in handcuffs, not a threat at all, for 9 minutes, and you're seeing him just basically being put to sleep.
Yeah,
You know,
over
and
a quote unquote counterfeit $20 bill. Like that just I don't understand how that equates to taking somebody's life.
right, and I mean, you have, don't get me wrong, you have your Candace Owens and all of that, and they might say something like where you know he had you know, certain drugs in his system. Something popped out of pocket, and you know, he had, you know, a rap sheet for, you know, God knows how long, and you could justify as much as you want to, but it's just a simple fact that if we're not acting accordingly and basically treating every citizen with their rights, then
Hmm.
it's a problem. It's an issue. So if a person is put to sleep, if a person is executed on camera for like 9 minutes, then that becomes an issue. And then that's when people start realizing, like, hey, their logic sets in. You know, if you show them like a 6 second, 7 second, like some dude named Walter Scott, I forgot his name, but the guy from like North Carolina, South Carolina running off,
Oh yeah,
he
running
was
from the officer.
yeah, like he was shot, and that happened so swiftly that you're just like, oh man, that's just like one of those. You know, we'll leave it to the justice system. You know what I mean? Or we'll just leave it to like, you know, the police report or something like
I
that.
mean,
But
damn, I'm not gonna lie. I'll just put my opinion out there. I thought that he just killed him in cold blood in that one too, even in the 6 seconds I saw. But I
right,
definitely yeah. It
it was
definitely
just
it
swiftly.
wasn't a 9 minute video though, like you were saying. Like
Exactly. Exactly. Because it's almost like, and I hate to like, I got nephews, I got nieces. You know, I got, you know, I'm a family man and everything. But it's just like, if God forbid somebody were to leave, um, you know, one of those Epstein like child whatever situations, and you happen to see a 6 second video, you're just like, oh, we need more for us to just basically kind of wrap our minds around it. But if you were to
mhm.
see like a 9 minute, like this is what he was doing the whole time, you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
You're like, what? Clearly, you're just like, you're mind blown, you know, because
yeah.
you're just like, you see it for what it is. So when people saw this whole public execution, they just looked at it like, hey, we're really living in a messed up system, and it's about time that, you know, we shed some light on the justice system and the policing, and how there's a demand for police reform, and we have to go out there and vote because some of these lawmakers are just like way old school, where like they're just so you know, far removed from what's really going on, that we need people that are currently hip to the times, you know. And I think that's what this whole video did, So I feel like a lot of people just kind of gravitated towards it because they could see how this was uncalled for and it was completely out of pocket and it was completely out of line, and how you could take this video and basically relate it to the Breonna Taylor's where she was an EMT and she
Mm-hmm.
got killed in cold-blooded murder because some unmarked people or policemen busted through her apartment and started shooting. You got the Ahmaud Arbery situations where people are getting hunted down. It's just the things like that. You start once you see how messed up one situation is, it kind of like promotes you or like kind of pushes you to go ahead and see what all is messed up in the system.
Yeah.
And I think this was just like the catalyst that was needed to be seen because you see the reaction throughout the whole world.
Mm-hmm. So based on everything that we just talked about, everything that you just said, are you feeling more or less confident moving forward about like the prospects for Black people in America than you were, let's say, like 2 months ago? Or are you kind of like still just like, I'll just wait to pass judgment when we see like what happens to these officers, like if they get convicted and if there's like real change, like where are you kind of in the mix right now as far as like how hopeful you are for the future of this country as far as being able to, one, deal with its racist past, and two, just like allowing Black people and other minorities for that matter the ability to have like a fair shot in life and everything.
Right. Where we at right now, I want to say um, it's a stage that we've never been here. In my personal experience, like I don't think we've ever been here. And I look at it like um, from this stage and moving forward, I think a lot of people are now mindful or open to having real conversations. Serena Williams' husband, I think, resigned
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
basically, insisted that the position be given to a person of color because without power, without equity, without land, without the resources that's needed to basically have a strong front, we're always going to be at the bottom of the totem pole unless those certain things change. So if those
Mhm.
things don't change, then basically we're always going to ask for help unless we have those things in order where we can just do by ourselves without the need of other communities. Because I feel like any other community, whether it be Hispanics, whether it be people from Greece, I don't know, like Argentina, it don't matter. There's a sense of community, and I feel like without the foundation that's needed to basically have power, we're always going to be the victims in any situation or any scenario that comes about. So with this, I feel like it's unprecedented, like the amount of reaction that's been received, and I feel like people will take this as a sign of real change. And I don't think we would digress or go back to the way we were because anybody could just basically reference this whole situation with George Floyd and be like, you know what, this isn't conducive to the growth of all races. This isn't conducive to the growth of all communities, and we basically have to. We have to do better as a people. And if we're really going to stand on, the ideal of this country, then we got to make the playing field a little bit more even instead of finding the faults of the reactions that you receive from people that have been oppressed by a system that was never designed in their favor.
Absolutely, man. Well, that does it for my questions, bro. Is there anything else that you want to just like touch on before we can wrap up this video? Legendary
Uh,
interview.
Yeah, no, not at all. One of the right side of my AirPod went out, but I'm about to go ahead and get started on a little bit of work. But shout out to my guys in Boston. Shout out to Hallie. Shout out to
Oh
all
yeah.
my guys out there. You know what I'm saying? Up north holding it down. You know what I'm saying? But Yeah, man, it was a good interview. I really enjoyed it, and I'm honored to be on your podcast. And I'd like to come out there in Boston whenever time permits.
And then I'll be down in Dallas when this all blows over. Well, that
Cool.
wraps up a legendary interview with my boy Cal. He's telling stories that I could never tell. Just from a perspective that I've never been a part of. So super happy to have him on. And until next time, guys, we will be posting this later tonight.